Welcome to the Executive America podcast, where we speak with the country's most influential industry leaders on the business and economic development issues taking place nationally. You can stay up to date with all of our content, including our publications, newsletters, and podcasts by visiting www.executiveamerica.com and clicking on subscribe.
A visionary and pathfinder who truly cares for others and deeply respects the land, Don Gurney produces work that is contemporary in expression with a deep understanding of the long tradition of architecture and design. By finding balance in the relationship between objects and spaces, he creates an effortless sense of harmony. He approaches projects both with restraint and an eye for layering and detail, using natural materials for their minimalist expression and the ability to improve with age. His hands-on methodology is driven by his great reverence for the relationships between people, nature, and the built environment. Don founded Openspace Architecture in 1998 with associate and senior technologist Eric Petit after 10 years as a project architect and planner, where he contributed to some of the largest development and rezoning projects along Vancouver's downtown waterfront. He pairs his comprehensive understanding of planning requirements with a humanist approach, honoring site context and the desire to enhance the way our buildings are experienced. The human condition is to be one with nature, and Don expresses this connection in how his buildings respond to their surroundings and foster a harmonious relationship between the indoors and outdoors. With his team, Don strives to elevate the field of architecture, creating a legacy through design excellence. Don, thanks for joining us today.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
So tell us a little bit more and give us an overview of Openspace Architecture.
Well, Openspace Architecture was originated I initiated the company in 1998 as Don Gurney Architects, and then we changed the name in 2008 to Openspace Architecture. And that name comes from my planning experience when I was with an international planning firm for many years, the Hallberg Group International, where we worked on projects internationally, but primarily in the downtown waterfront area. So we would work on projects for Marathon, Concord Pacific, Vancouver Port Authority, that sort of thing, which was open space planning was a very large component of those mega developments. And so realizing and working with open space planning, and as well as the built fabric, that became a very important term. And that's how the name originated.
Okay. And, as the director of the business, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background and how you got involved with the industry?
So I originally started out as my whole background has been in the construction industry. I started out very early, from my early teens, working construction. That led to a technical diploma where it was architectural design and drawing. This is back in the 70s. And then from that, I was a technician for 5 years with an architecture firm. And then 1983, decided to go back to university, study architecture at Carleton University.
You've done a range of projects. You've already mentioned some of the local work that you've been doing, but your work can be seen across Vancouver, from West Van, North Van, the Olympic training facility, can't it?
Yes, we've got, our local work probably is most noticeably visible in West Vancouver and in the Whistler area. We've done work on the interior of British Columbia. We've done work on Vancouver Island, up in Tofino, Saanich Peninsula, Cowichan Lake. Again, most of the projects we do, with the exception of West Vancouver, are secondary projects or second residential resort type homes. So this has been our primarily focus for the past, I would say, 15 years.
And just to clarify for listeners, is that your core business, effectively doing, secondary homes for people with a decent amount of disposable income?
Correct. That has been the our history. Although more recently, we're getting into more hotel work. We're doing some restorative work that has been happening in California, most particularly in Sonoma County, where the fires have had the devastating effect on the wineries. So we're now getting involved in California. And we're also involved in another large sort of off-the-grid planning and architectural design project for residential homes in the Carmel, Monterey area.
Yeah, right. Okay. We'll talk about some of the international projects that you've done in a moment, but what do you think the attraction is to, the Whistler region? Are you mostly working for British Columbia-based clients? Are they Canadian? Are they international? And what do you think is the big attraction of that area?
Well, I think that, Whistler is a world-class ski resort, and now in the last 10 years, it's become an all-seasons resort, so that there's enough draw there that originally just meant for skiers is now for mountain bikers, and everything else from fly fishing to hiking that goes along with that resort. And as far as our clients are concerned, I would say that probably 95% of them are international clients from basically all over the place, the UK, Australia, South Africa, London, and Malaysia as well.
So you had mentioned some of the work that you were doing in California. Why don't you tell us, what the sort of work that you've done across the border?
Well, we're doing resort homes in Hawaii. We were involved in the Ho'olulai Resort on the Big Island, Hawaii, where we did 4 homes that were quite successful. We're working in another resort doing some single-family homes for private clients. The most recent stuff that we're excited about is in Sonoma County, where we're rebuilding a winery and a number of support buildings that were devastated by the Kincaid fire in 2019. And then we're doing this off the grid project, which is it's called Walden. It's located very close to, it's almost midway between Carmel and Monterey, which is a very exciting project for us.
What was really interesting to me is when we initially started speaking with you, even though you're Vancouver based and you seem to be doing a lot of secondary homes for high net worth individuals, you're doing a lot of international work in I guess what would be considered more exotic type places, aren't you?
Yes, yeah. What we're really keen on taking, because we started out doing simple timber frame homes, we've evolved that over the past 17 years into doing these really lovely projects, which are a mix of timber frame and hybrid steel buildings, concrete, etc. And we developed a really nice system for approaching buildings. And what we want to do is we want to introduce other countries such as India, Japan, we've been to Mongolia, to these systems to bring them a new type of housing. And not just necessarily housing, it could be hotels, it could be golf resorts, that sort of thing.
And I mean, like a lot of industries, architecture, I assume, is quite competitive. I mean, what do you think your big difference is, and why do you think people are coming to see you for your knowledge over other competitors in the space?
Well, there's a lot of technologies, highly integrated 3D modeling. They call it building information modeling. And I think that this is taking over much of the industry, but where it hasn't really reached is the residential market. And these homes are every bit as expensive as some of the smaller hospitals, schools, and for some reason, the digital information modeling has not gotten into the residential market. Given the level of sophistication of these homes, it certainly should be. And so I think that maybe that might be one of the edges that we've got, is that we resolve these buildings relative to the site in 3D computer modeling with integrated structural, mechanical, electrical, smart home systems, et cetera, before we hit construction.
During our interview, you've mentioned a few other things. Like, I mean, the business is called Openspace Architecture. There's got to be a theory around that. You've also talked about, timber framing and also steel beams. Is there, a look and feel that you guys are known for?
Well, open space planning, again, comes from, my planning background in the city. But when you look at a particular site, whether it's in a mountain site or a desert site or, a lakefront site, ocean site, basically what you want to do, and what we refer to as the open space, is we find the best part of the site, and then we put the building on the worst part of the site so that you can view onto the best part. And this is essentially what we mean by open space planning, because these buildings with the large amounts of glass, the large spans that we can get with timber and steel afford the inhabitants to, have this huge window on nature. So in a sense, the buildings become a lens piece to view nature. And it's quite an experience to live in these homes, in all seasons, whether it's a snowstorm or a beautiful, still, foggy afternoon, or whatever it is. But basically, you are in full contact with nature, which is we think is becoming increasingly more important in our lives these days.
Mm. And tell us a little bit about where the business is headed in the medium term.
Well, I think my focus right now is to take what we do, the technologies that we've developed, and take them to other countries. I think that Canadians make great ambassadors internationally, and I think that the technologies we have developed here are worthy of sharing. And so far, the reception that we've been given in these various countries has been very, very positive, and it's all new to them.
And it was interesting as well because you're not the first person who I've spoken to. Unlike the media reports, you've been doing quite well through this last year of COVID, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, COVID. I really had no idea how it's going to affect us, but in reality, it's, if nothing else, we've gotten more busy during the past year and a bit.
Okay. Look, we're probably wrapping up and getting towards the end of the interview, Don. Before we finish up today, is there anything else that you might like to add?
The only thing I'd like to add is something that we think is important in the work that we do, whether it's commercial work or residential work, is just keeping people in contact with real materials. And by that, I mean people, so that when you walk in a building, these buildings, they resonate with materials that sit in right relation to the body. In other words, we're using materials like stone, timber, some metals that once you walk in the building, you don't need a period of adjustment. Your body is settled and at one with it. And then those materials coupled with viewing onto nature is a very satisfying mind, spirit experience, if you will. And so that in combination with, of course, low energy consumption, all of the green agenda that's going out there is really critical these days.
Okay. Well, Don, thanks very much for your time today.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me.
This has been a production of Executive America, a division of Romulus Rising Proprietary Limited. All rights reserved. You can stay up to date with Executive America, including our publications, newsletters, and podcasts by visiting www.executiveamerica.com and clicking on subscribe.